Tommy, your guest is Steve Coogan.
Got them.
That's nice. I like it when people catch them.
What are you working on at the minute?
I'm here. Well, I'll tell you, I'm here. This is probably the only show where you're allowed to, like, unselfconsciously just plug what it is you come to plug. By the way, I'm here because I'm doing, after a long time doing lots of other things, I'm doing a big tour, live tour,
Oh, good man. Right,
as Alan Partridge.
All right, wow.
I'm doing all over the UK, but I'm starting the tour in Dublin because someone told me they were very, very warm audience.
And we love the English.
Yeah, and you love the English and that you're very warm. No, it was because I think, we've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And in actual fact,
That's a great press release.
It is. We've got to start somewhere. I mean, but I tell you what it is. It's not so much that the Irish got warm for me. It's that the English have a bit of an antipathy towards me. Like they think I'm. There's a few people. It's not the warmth there isn't quite as. It's mitigated by a certain.
I have a feeling that's because you're too talented, and people who are very good at lots of things, they can't be pigeonholed.
Yeah. Well, I try not to.
Is success repetitive? Say in England now.
I try not to make it so. In what respect?
Because I think you've had so much success in the UK. I can remember going to see your show in the Prince something, one of them Regency theatres in Leicester Square, or it's off the Strand or something.
Oh yeah,
in '97 or '98.
'98. It was the Lyceum in Covent Garden. And
you just done a massive tour of huge venues. Partridge was colossal. And so I'm just wondering, a certain thrill has to go because it's not new anymore.
Yes.
So where does the thrill...
For me,
yeah.
I know what you're driving at, because you do have a sort of honeymoon period where you can't believe that people are paying you to do the thing you love. And then you have, I mean, I remember seeing you 25 plus years ago in Edinburgh and being wowed by you. It was a lesson as well. You can learn from good people. And I remember there was a lesson in watching, thinking, he's taking his time and is in command of what he's talking about. And you told stories. You told a wonderful story about telling your dad you loved him, and I'll never forget that. I've retold it to people a number of times. It's hilarious and heartwarming. And to me, that's the stuff I love, is the stuff that's funny and it's life-affirming. But to answer your original question about how do you sort of not feel like, well, you're sort of flatlining, if you like.
Yeah.
Is...
flatlining at the top.
Flatlining, well, yeah. I remember someone once told me that Bill Hicks said to an American comedian called Will Durst, said, "It's lonely at the top and it's not too crowded in the middle." You know that one? It's lonely, it's not too crowded in the middle. Well, anyway, what I tend to do is ignore, treat it as if it's the first show you've ever done. Don't take it for granted. Keep the workman-like approach to it. Don't read about what people say about you. Just ignore all that. Just do your job and do it well.
But so on that, you were also brilliant as Stan Laurel in, I can't remember the name of the film.
Stan and Ollie.
Stan and Ollie. So that's a massive act of impersonation. How did you...
Well, I've played a handful of real people in my life, dead and alive, and Stan Laurel. When I did that part, I remember John Baird, the director. We distinguished between Stan and Laurel. Stan Laurel. We said Laurel and Hardy was the famous double act, and when I was doing Stan, he'd say a bit more Laurel and a bit less Stan, and Stan was the real person, and Laurel was his on-screen persona. And first of all, I found it easy to identify with it because Stan Law was a comedy writer and he played a character, and I've done both those things.
Yeah.
So I understood that, and there's a Venn diagram where Stan overlaps with his character on screen. When he's being his private self, there's a bit of his character still there. And when I do Alan Partridge, people, when I talk normally, I sometimes sound like him, and even my turns of phrase are a bit like him. So that gave me a clue too. So when I did stand-up, when he was performing, it's like that. It certainly has that sort of physicality like that. And it talks. It's a strange sort of mid-Atlantic accent, you know. And so that was a. And then when he was speaking normally, there'd still be this residue of what you heard when he was on screen, but he wouldn't be clowning around. It would just be a then you start. You say, well, there's a tonal difference, and then away you go, and you sort of sort of paradoxically, doing the superficial stuff helps you find depth. Yeah.
Did you? What was the experience of I remember Billy Connolly, this great line, I'm trying to be successful in America, but they won't let me. So, what was your adventure in terms
Why
of...
did they do that? Why did they do that? You'd be well, eh? Why? You know. Sorry, I love Billy Connolly.
So tell me about the States and what that was, trying to...
This is my experience of America, and I sort of, you know, if you feel something intuitively, instinctively, it's probably right. And I had this manager in America, and I was told, you've got to come to America, you're going to be in a film with this person, that person. I went, well, all right, then, if that's what you're supposed to do, you know. Yeah. I've done stuff in England, I'll do that now, I'll try and do that. And of course, it didn't feel authentic, and I sort of flirted with it. And I went out there and I got distracted by the shiny things for probably about a year or a couple of years. And when I was
Which is nothing, actually. That's
well, I mean, it was enough for me to be going, what am I doing? But something good came out of it because I was in a film, I'd done a few little Hollywood bit parts and things, which is fun and distracting, but not really, there was no meat on the bone. I was doing a film called The Other Guys, quite a funny film, actually, with Will Ferrell.
A brilliant film, brilliant.
Yeah. And I was doing my bit in it, which was all right, you know, it was sort of something and nothing. But for me, it was like, I really was going out there and just being sort of a performing monkey, albeit in a very funny film. But I felt like this didn't feel right. And also, your status can be measured by how far you have to walk to the makeup trailer from your trailer. And I remember Will's was right next to us, and mine was a long enough walk to start to get cold before you got there. And I was reading an article in The Guardian while I was sat in my New York apartment about a woman called Philomena Lee and the journalist Martin Sixsmith, and how she lost her son and never saw him grow up. And it really moved me. I remember I was in tears reading it. And my then girlfriend, China Chow, who's a lovely woman, said to me, why don't you make it into a film? And I said, well, I don't really do that kind of thing. I don't really do that. And I thought, well, why not? Why can't you do that? So, and that became Philomena. Yeah. And that was a lesson, because I followed my instincts. I want to move people and tell a story that means something, and not just do froth.
Are you ruthless?
Well,
I mean, creatively, and then...
I think there's two things that drive me when I write. Well, I don't think as a person I try to be considerate.
You're strong, though. You give the appearance of strength.
Well,
is that a Manchester thing?
I don't know. It might be. It might be a thing. It might be something. There's two things that I get angry, and I use the work. I'm not on social media. I don't do any of that kind of stuff, because I know that I'd get in trouble. I get in a pickle because I'd lose my temper about something. But I get angry about stuff. But angry about things that I think are important, and and I also am quite emotional, and love is a big driving factor. I think so. Love and anger can go hand in hand, and I put stuff. If I'm angry about something, I shove it into the work, put it in my work, and that's my catharsis. Is just chuck it all in the work, and figure out how to talk about it through your work. Probably because I'm not actually very. I mean, you're talking to me now. Talking about. I don't really talk like this to people very often. Certainly about my background. But I think I talk intellectually about things or subjects, but talking about what goes on inside you is quite vulnerable and not something I'm ordinarily comfortable with. What I don't want to do is I get self-conscious. I go throw it in the work, put it in the work, and it'll figure itself out. But so to me, I would go crazy if I couldn't put all the things I'm thinking into the stuff I write.
Yeah.
And what about you? Tell me, what about you? I mean, you're. It's funny because I look at you and I've seen you obviously crop up here and there and see you as this middle-aged man, and even now because you're younger enough than me for me to still think of you. When you have a little brother, and they're not actually that much younger than you, but you can't quite get your head around the fact that they're not that.
They're bald and grey.
Yes. Well, that's how I. Because in my mind, I still have your dark curly hair, like a sort of I like a really impressive little brother. I don't know why. I mean, but
I don't have your gifts, Steve. I don't have. So I'm a much more. I've realised now that I've always been half designed for stand-up, in terms of lived in loads of different places as I was growing up, and had no interest in academic stuff, and was always drawn towards talking and performing. So that's a thing for me recently, is that almost to accept your fate in a sense, not in a fatalistic way, but almost in a kind of removing stresses from your life. Kind of going, I'm a stand-up. I was born to be talking to people. I'm half designed for that. So, but I would feel hunted. I'd feel hunted, and then pure joy and release on stage. But one probably fuels the other. Will you tell me about were your mum and dad both Irish, or one of them Irish?
No, my mother grew up my mother's still with us. She's in Manchester. My father passed 4 years ago, quite suddenly in church, actually, which was I was strangely pleased about, because that's where a place he would have been happy. I was, the general values I was given were good ones. It was not a severe upbringing. It was.
Was there big broody in it?
There was a big family. We fostered kids at the same time. My parents fostered children. My mother grew up in Mayo. Was sent back there during the war, because the Blitz was happening in England. Her parents had to go to England for work, and they were working class Irish, a couple, my grandparents. And they had several children, and they sent my mother and her brother back to Mayo during the Second World War. And so my mother's childhood was all there. So although she was born in England, she really, her childhood was all in the West, and quite sort of severe, very, very rudimentary existence. But and then she came over to, after the war, when she was 14, 15, came over to England and met my father, and they were married for 60 years. And but there was a lot of joy, now. We loved watching comedies. We'd all gather round and watch 40 Towers and laugh our heads off, and turn the TV off afterwards and put the kettle on and talk about what was our favourite bits and all that. So there was a kind of a robust encouragement of that. And my father, he was not perfect by any stretch of imagination, but he would always help people out. And my grandfather was like that. My grandfather ran a dance hall in the 1950s, early 50s actually, after the war, for Irish immigrants. And he would wait at Piccadilly Station in Manchester, looking for Irish people getting off the train from the ferry, and because he made a few bob from this dance hall, and just hand out money to them so they could have somewhere to stay for the night. And my uncle would talk about, even recently, I was talking to my uncle saying, frequently, my granddad would go in and say, "You've got to get out of the bed. There's an Irish fella who needs the bed for the night," and just be turfed out of his bed. So, but that idea of just doing stuff for other people, naturally, not in some overbearing religious way, was just part of the way I was raised. So I've always had that with me, and it does make me uncomfortable with material success in a way that I try to, that I'm conscious of, and so I try to do something about it.
You love a fast car.
I do love fast car, but I feel guilty when I'm driving it. Doesn't that count? It is a funny thing, that. Yeah. I like old cars. I like modern new cars. I like footballers' cars. I like old ones. I like old ones because there's something unchanged. I do like old cars because when you sit in an old car, you feel like there's something reassuring about the fact that it's unchanging. It's like you're trapped in the past, and which is not always necessarily a bad place to be for me.
What do you, apart from work stuff, what do you daydream about?
I daydream about a sort of mythical time in the future when I've got all the bulk of the stuff out of the way and I'm walking the Appalachian Trail in America, and with very few possessions.
Like St. Francis, is it?
Yeah, well, there's
Brother Moon, sister sun, like little robins perched on your hands. Is that it?
Yeah. And but a really good-looking girlfriend, which I don't think Sir
Waiting
Francis
for you.
had, did he? Well, he wouldn't actually. Yeah. There is a little bit of that. I'm thinking, it'd be great to do something. I've got a friend called Mike who I went to school with at the age of 11. And he lives out of a backpack, more or less. And I sometimes look at him and think, why is it that you're living the life I want to live, but you've got no money, and I've got this money, and I'm living this other life that feels like stuff that I'm just trying to get this stuff done,
But it is your gift as well. I mean,
Yeah,
It's a
I
gift.
know. I am. The one thing I've learnt is gratitude. Which I have in spades for what I'm able to do. What I'm able to do. The things that I wanted to do, I'm able to do, and what I do, I would do for nothing if I could, if I had a roof over my head.
Can you tell me about what it was like to take on? I'd often get quite angry and full of not despair, but just almost defeated by the press. And I know that you went toe-to-toe with them in a sense in the UK.
Yeah.
Did you feel like a David against a Goliath, or
I felt...
can you ever win with the press?
Well, you can't win, but you certainly think, I'm not going to play your stupid game. And I felt there was a lot of things going on in my head about it. Not just that they were invasive in my life. I thought they could do that. But other people's lives, little people who can't fight back, victimizing them and using them as fodder for profit. Simple as that. I thought, well, what most people will go, oh, I'm not going to do that. What's the point? And I thought, well, I'm doing fine. I'm doing all right. I don't need them. Also, weirdly, because they'd already turned me over and all the sort of bad, negative tabloid things about me had already been said, there's nothing else to say.
Sure, yeah.
So they strangely, inadvertently empowered me, because I thought, right, I'm gonna go for it. And I saw some other people going for it too. So it was actually a really, my self-esteem was never better. Really.
Wow.
I felt really good about it, and I felt empowered by it. And I felt like, yeah, fuck them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about, so when is Partridge on tour? When are you on tour?
Oh, crikey, yes. Yes, let's get back to that. Okay. Crikey. It's April the...
April the something. in Dublin.
April oh, Christ, what was it? The 25th, is that right?
People will find out.
Yes, it's the 25th, or 24th and 25th, I think, or around that time.
Yeah.
And one night, the first night's sold out, the second night's not sold out. And it's going to be like a sort of...
Is it a big... When I saw Partridge 25 years ago, it was a big production. Dancers...
Oh, it's the same thing. We're going to have dancers and lots of lights and stuff like that. But it's also going to be... the whole show is Alan Partridge. It's going to be like he's a lifestyle guru. He's trying to help people fix their lives. He's going to talk about how, for young people, for middle-aged people, how to interpret the new landscape we're in. He'll be talking about BAME, post-woke landscape, gender politics, identity politics, diversity, anything that he can possibly mangle. I'll be talking about all that stuff as and taking a bit of a leaf out of the sort of it might be a bit like a TED talk. The first half would be a bit of that vibe.
Yeah.
A bit of Elon Musk, Steve Jobs kind of, vibe about it.
Are you able to be funny in, like, once you start doing Alan?
Yeah.
Does it just adjust?
Well, it starts to, now right now I'm on the spot, but yeah, when I'm on stage, when I'm doing stuff live, I will be able to sort of channel something. You know those people who channel a spirit? Those sort of, it sort of feel like you're sort of channeling something, and you sort of you sort of let stuff come into your head that ordinarily you wouldn't say, or stuff that you think, or that people with a conscience think but don't say. And what you do is you don't edit yourself. You just say it. It's
a great gift, Steve. You're a genius, and it's always thrilling for me to see your work. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.